Randumb Rants. Like and subscribe. Now you see the thumbnail, right? You see the title of the video. Hell, you even know the song. Let's just be clear. This is the most popular and most notable black sitcom theme song of all time, right? But you guys just skim over the actual incident that leads to Will moving to Bel-Air. Oh, but don't worry. This video is going to touch on everything. It's going to break down everything. We're going to talk about locations. What park was that? Where's Will Smith from? Was he really born in West Philadelphia? Was he really raised there? What actually happened in that park? Who were the guys involved? Where were they from? Yeah, see, the song skips over all of that and it gets into Will Smith and Bel-Air. Oh, but no. So understand that this rant is going to be a lyric breakdown as well as the background of Will Smith's life prior to him going to Bel-Air. Oh, and for the record, we will be doing the extended version of the theme song. Not the one that you're accustomed to. No, the one from season 1, episode 1. Yeah, we're going to lead you right to Will knocking on that door. And the show begins, right? You know, but let's start from the beginning like I always do. West Philadelphia, born and raised. Is that true? And it actually is. Everybody knows. You can Google this now. Will Smith childhood home is 5943 Woodcrest Avenue, Philadelphia. Yeah, West Philadelphia. That was not a lie, right? And you guys already know his parents, Viola and Lou Smith, and a young Will. You guys know the story, right? And don't worry, because I'm setting this up. We're definitely going to do the Lou Will episode and story. That's coming soon, sooner than later, okay? But you guys remember the story, right? You got Lou Smith. He leaves Will at 5, okay? Leaves Will and his mother at 5. And he goes off to a farm where he eventually gets his CDL and becomes a trucker. But later on that, okay? Keep a mental note on that. How about that, right? But then you got Will and Viola Smith. You know, she's raising him. You know, she's the manager at the post office, right? In West Philadelphia, right? And I know the show never mentioned this, but Viola had 2 different men in her life after Will's father. You know, during Will's upbringing. See, of course, in the 90s, they made it popular, of course, in the hip-hop culture for the father not to be there and whatnot. But Will had father figures, you know. Now, they might not have been the best men, but they were there helping her out with the bills that Lou walked out on. Helping her out with a child that Lou walked out on, right? But of course, the show didn't mention them. I believe one name was Howard. Then the other name was Jonathan, I believe. So, for the record, West Philadelphia, born and raised. That is a fact. He was born in UPenn Hospital, located in West Philadelphia. He was raised at 5943 Woodcrest Avenue. Okay? Next lyric. On the playground is where I spend most of my days. fact, Will Smith is a stellar basketball player. You guys saw how he was in California. Now, in Philadelphia, everybody is good. It's way better competition, of course, than Carlton School. This is the inner city of Philadelphia, okay? They not calling those fouls, okay? It's rough out there, all right? And he was out there on them playgrounds. That's where he spent most of his days. Understand this, right? Understand this. That's probably controversial to some of you guys, right? But understand this. In the 1900s, for recreation and exercise, kids went outside to play. Okay? So that's what that line meant, right? And like we said, Will Smith, he was a bucket in junior high. And he ended up going to Overbrook High School, located in West Philadelphia. And who else went to Overbrook High School? The late, great Wilt Chamberlain. Yes, the greatest NBA player to ever play. But nobody will say that because the people that's talking about the game never saw him play. So they'll act like he don't exist. But that's a whole different video for a whole different day, right? So Will Smith, of course, he playing JV for Overbrook. Coming off the bench, had a great year. This is before his growth spurt now, right? So the summertime of the following year is going to his sophomore year. He's 16 and he's starting to grow. You know, he's becoming who you guys see, I guess, right? And he's at a park. See, him and his friends, you remember Jeff? Him and his friends Jeff and charliemack? Yeah, you probably don't know charliemack. Charliemack is the first to come out the limo. Yeah, Will told you that. You just wasn't listening. But yeah, Will and his crew, they would often play basketball at the Roberto Clemente Rec Center on 18th and Wallace. Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to be somebody in the comments from Philly that's going to vouch for that. Now, you guys was watching the show. These places actually exist. So, joke's on you. You know, nonetheless though, right? Will and his group of friends, they're playing basketball. And I guess that leads us to our next lyric. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool. Just shooting some b-ball outside of the school. And ladies and gentlemen, we have just encountered our first rap lie from Will Smith. Because that wasn't a school. You were outside of the rec center. Yeah, that was the rec center, right? And then we get to the next line. See, he says, when a couple of guys who were up to no good started making trouble in my neighborhood. Now, that is the second and third rap lies that he said in this. And let me explain the story. So let's start off with the group of guys who were up to no good. Okay? They're not guys. They're actually a group of young bulls. Yeah, in Philly, that's what they call them. Young bulls. Okay? And that's Mike and his crew from 21st and Green Street, West Philly. Stand up. Yeah. And to think that Mike and Will don't know each other is crazy, right? It's so crazy, right? Because they have something in common. And you know, when two males, you know, tend to clash and they have something in common, you know what that could be, right? Yeah. Puerto Rican Marcita with the dimples. And we'll explain that. See, because Will didn't. He didn't want to tell America that this whole fiasco started over a female. Guess he thought he was too cool. But rants know the real story, right? And I mean, it's the typical story. Mike, he's same age as Will. He's a D-boy, right? Will's a basketball player. She goes to Overbrook, you know, take a liking to Will, who plays basketball. But she was already messing with Mike, the D-boy. And of course, His crew from 21st and Green, they don't like that. And then you said, started making trouble in my neighborhood. Will, we have your address. You live 24 minutes away from this park. But in all actuality, see, because we got it. It was manipulation. See, you were actually in their neighborhood. Cocky little guy, right? Thought charliemack could save you. Not in this case, right? And then you have the audacity. Will has the audacity, right, to say, I got into one little fight. He tries to downplay this whole video, basically, right? But Will, we know the truth. And to think that was the first time they fought on that basketball court, no. That was the first time his mother found out. No, that was the fourth time they fought. Yeah, over the little Rican chick. And I'm not going to say who got the best of who, because it could go either way depending on what neighborhood you from. Yeah, rants know how that go. So I'm not going to say that, right? But they fought a couple times, right? But you want to hear about that incident, the non-fatal incident, right? Okay, so they're at the basketball court, right? And you want them to, the story paints us out like a basketball bounces their way, and that's what started it. No. charliemack, Jazzy Jeff, you guys already know, Will, and his man Sean, they're playing basketball, right? And, you know, normal stuff, right? And Mike and the 21st and Green crew, they approached Will, right? But see, this was about to be what, like the fifth time they was fighting? No. And see, the thing was, like, it's sad because Marcita had already chose Will, but, you know, Mike, he's the man around his way, and he just couldn't take that, right? And they approached Will, and they wasn't trying to fight that day. No, they was not trying to fight. And the thing is, see, man, I really don't want. I don't want to. All right, so people already did their time, and I guess the statute of limitations is over. So I guess we can just go ahead and just talk about it, right? Mike, it was an altercation happened. An altercation happened between Mike and Will again, right? And now their crews is there, right? You got charliemack, you got Sean, you got Jeff, you got the Green Street crew, right? And Mike had the tool, let's just say, the tool. And charliemack sees this, right? And he wrestles with Man for the toy, right? And that leads to a blast happening and their friend Sean getting hit in the calf. Now, luckily, it was just a flesh wound, right? But after this happened, the piece dropped. Do you know charliemack picked that thing up and was banging at them people? He hit Man. Now, nobody passed, right? Nobody passes away, right? But understand, people had to go to court for this. It was a big deal, right? And that leads us to the next line. And my mom got scared and said, you're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel-Air. See, because, and we'll, of course, get into all of them eventually, but you know, her sister Vivian married Uncle Phil, right? Touched on that in a couple videos, right? And they're in Bel-Air, and they are living a different lifestyle, right? And you think about Philly, like other cities, but Philly especially, and I know they're going to be in the comments like, hey, Rants ain't lying. they don't play around with the snitching rule. Okay? So, understand, Will Smith is green, right? And, man, I know they're going to be mad at me. He writes a statement and explains what happened. You know, and I guess you guys already know because he ended up, that's why they tried to cover it up in the rap or for the theme song, right? But he wrote the statement and explained what happened. And this led to, of course, charliemack doing some time and Mike doing some time, right? Sean, of course, recovered from his wounds, right? And this is why you never see charliemack on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But you see Jeff, though, right? You see Jeff, but you never see charliemack, who's also a day one. And Sean stopped hanging with him, of course, after that. You know, like, you know, Sean stopped hanging with him. Now, I want you guys to understand now. After this event happened, Will's house allegedly was popped at, let's just say, right? And that's when it was the final straw. Will had to go to Bel-Air to live with Vivian and Uncle Phil. He had to get some structure. He needed a strong male figure. Okay? Big Howard and Jonathan, they wasn't going to cut it. Right? And this actually goes on to the next line. I begged and pleaded with her every day, but she packed my suitcase and sent me on my way. Double entendre because charliemack played. See? Clever. You guys wasn't listening to it. Rants was. And the next line. She gave me a kiss and then she gave me a ticket. I put my Walkman on and said I might as well kick it. Let's talk about that. So, Will gets to the airport. And he's like, well, this is going to be my last time I get to get a cheesesteak. So, Will, crazy. He decides to go to the Geno's located in the airport. Little did he know he would catch crazy food poisoning. Yep, he had mud butt. And the crazy gas where you really don't know, you know, the crazy gas, you know, they lead to sharks. You know what I'm talking about, right? But that's neither here nor there, though, right? And he kind of like throws a hint at it, you know, later on in the song, but we'll get to that. Nonetheless, the next line, first class. Yo, this is bad. Drinking orange juice out of a champagne glass? Is this what the people of Bel-Air living like? This might be all right. Now, who do you think paid for that ticket? Yes, of course, Aunt Vivian paid for the ticket, but that money came from Uncle Phil. Because, of course, Viola didn't have it, but she knew her sister did. So that's how he got the first class ticket, right? And he's drinking orange juice out of the champagne glass. But why? Is it because he's dehydrated due to the mud butt? He done ran to the toilet on the plane about 5 times since you saw this scene. Yeah. Now, what you don't know is if you actually listen to the whole song, not just the theme song, the actual whole song on YouTube, Uncle Phil had someone, you know, meet Will as he got off the plane. But Will didn't trust it. He thought they were the police. And he was like, you know, I just came off that incident. You know, I'm scared. So he was a little paranoid, right? But now let's go to the actual lyrics that we all know, right? I whistled for a cab, and when it came near, the license plate said fresh and had the dice in the mirror. If anything, I could say that this cab was rare, but I thought, nah, forget it. Yo, home's to Bel-Air. And let me explain that to you guys real quick. Because Will was on point, right, with that observation. That right there is called a cat cab, ran by a popular Crip gang that I won't say the exact one, but back in the day they had, you know, a couple of cabs, and they would pick up clients and take them to suburban wealthy areas. They would only pick up those type of routes, right? And then they'll use that to scope out the area to, break in, But nonetheless though, Will Smith was definitely on point with that, right? And the next line, I pulled up to the house about 7 or 8 and I yelled to the cabbie, home, smell you later. Let me stop. Remember I told you, crazy gas. And Will is crazy. He used manipulation. He knows he's talking to America. So he's like, it wasn't me. It was the guy driving the cat cab. Yeah, that's why it was a little cheaper, Will. It was a cat cab. And you was farting up a storm in that back. He knew that. I ain't gonna say what type of crip, but I almost said it. You almost caught me. You almost caught Rants. But yeah, he's one of them. He was about to do that to you. That's disrespectful. Oh no, the west side. Everybody know that. On the left coast. Everybody know that. But nonetheless though, we finished the song with, I looked at my kingdom. I was finally there to sit on my throne as the Prince of Bel-Air. What a cocky individual. You just got there, buddy. And you guys remember, he has a mild seizure. Like, he's knocking on the door and he's wobbling his head in a circular motion. Like, why was he doing that? And that always drove me crazy growing up. Like, why is Will doing this? Is he having a seizure? I'm asking my mother, I'm like, Mommy Rants, what's going on? Is he about to foam from the mouth? And then we see him knocking on the door, of course. And this is where the show starts. This is where Will begins to influence little Ashley Banks with his hip hop mumbo jumbo and ideologies. He becomes a terror on Carlton's life, of course. You guys remember that. And he stomps on Philip Banks, but I guess we'll get to that. This was just the beginning. This was just a prequel, right? Like and subscribe. Randumb Rants.